Welcome to We Are Women Unapologetically, the podcast that talks about the good, bad, ugly, and awesome. Careers, life transitions, confidence, and everything in between. Because shift happens, but you don't have to do it alone.
You know that feeling when you walk in your closet, you pick out a shirt, you put it back, you pick out another one, you put it back, you do this 5 or 6 times, and then you just finally pick out, like, the shirt you've worn at least once every week for the last 3 months? Well, that's kinda what it's like being stuck in your career, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm Jessica Cumming, and welcome to We Are Women Unapologetically. I am so glad that you joined me today, friends. What we're going to be looking at is that uncomfortable, sticky feeling of being stuck. Not only we're going to talk about the feeling, but we're also going to talk about how do you identify if you're stuck, the common themes of being stuck, and what you can do to get unstuck. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Let's talk about what does it look like to be stuck. Number one, the Sunday night dread. We've all been there. Sunday evening, maybe even Sunday afternoon, you're already dreading the work week ahead. Maybe it's because of the unread emails you got over the weekend. Maybe it's a huge presentation coming up, or maybe you're just sick of the day to day routine. Whatever it is, if you are dreading work on Sunday, then you are definitely stuck. Another one, and I just kind of actually mentioned it as part of the first one, is it's Groundhog's Day. It's Groundhog Day every single day. It's monotony. It's doing the same thing over and over and over. But you know what else that also sounds like? The definition of insanity. Expecting this different results by doing the same thing over and over and over again. So that's the second one. Number 3 is going to be LinkedIn. You look at LinkedIn and half the time you're intrigued and educated by it, but the other half of the time you are completely exhausted by it. You are sitting there looking at it thinking everyone else has a perfect life and they have these perfect careers, and you're not because you're stuck. Another one we're looking at is the 2 a.m. job change. You've been laying in bed, you can't sleep, and you're like, okay, what does a career change look like? So you're Googling it. You're Googling different jobs you might be interested in, but you never actually hit submit on any of the applications. So if you've experienced any of those things, congratulations, you're not alone, because 76% of women at some point in their careers say that they've been stuck. And you know what? It actually happens more to high achieving professional women just like you. So now that we've talked about what does being stuck look like, let's go ahead and look at some of the common themes of being stuck. So why do women get stuck in their careers? You may be thinking it's lack of ambition or laziness, but the reality is it's honestly quite the opposite. Sometimes there's just too much talent to stay in that little box, but you do it anyway. There are too many expectations for you to be in that role. I mean, you worked your way up and people expect this of you. And then there are too many options. You know you could go somewhere else, you know you should go somewhere else, but you just don't know where to go. So now that we've talked about why and what being stuck looks like, let's talk about the 3 different types of being stuck. The first type of stuck is called the golden grip. And what this is it's when your success becomes your prison. You're making 6 figures, that extra 20% bonus at the end of the year is no joke. You have 5 weeks of vacation and you have stock options that are just about to vest. This is probably one of the scariest types of stuck there is, but it doesn't have to be. You do not have to walk away from success in order to find fulfillment. I'm going to say that again. So if you've been multitasking, come back to me because this is really important. You do not have to walk away from success in order to find fulfillment. What we need to do is look at what does success mean and redefine what is success? What really truly makes you happy? And then what we need to look at doing is reframing your thinking from I can't afford to make a change into how do I redesign my success? That way, you're still having this lifestyle that you're accustomed to, or maybe you find some things that you really no longer have to have. Let me share a story with you. I had a client come to me that was looking at selling her business. And this was a client that told me straight out, I don't really know what a budget is. I mean, she knew what a budget was, but she didn't have to stick to one. She knew that she had the money. She always had it coming in. She didn't have to worry about it. She was good. And now that she was looking at selling this business, she realized she needed to look at redesigning her success, what was important to her, how she could look at supplementing the income that she would no longer have coming in. But of course, she was selling a business, so she was getting something out of it. The whole point to that is think about what's really important to you. Second type of stuck is called the perfectionist pause. And the perfectionist pause is basically when it's, I want one more quarter of results. I'm going to get one more certification. I am going to look at reading one more book, right? It's literally you procrastinate and not do anything. And this one can be scary because it looks like you're really trying to get ahead, but you're not. You're just prolonging the inevitable of being stuck. We're going to play a little game and it's going to be spot the perfectionist pattern. And what this is it's just some examples and I want you to see if you're guilty of them. Number 1, you have a draft email that's been sitting in your inbox for 2 weeks because it's not perfect yet. You've been researching a career move for so long, you could basically write a thesis for your PhD on it. You keep editing your LinkedIn profile, but you don't actually make any new connections. So if any of those sound like you, well, there you go. That's the perfectionist pause. And then the third type is the legacy limbo. And this one is very personal because it is one where you're taking the path that is expected of you. You have the weight of other people's opinions on your shoulders. You have dreams that you haven't really expressed that you really want to do something else, and you're worried about what other people may think. I want to share a story with you because I experienced the legacy limbo very early on in my career. I had only been at Dell for maybe a month, and a good friend of mine called and said, I need an assistant, quit your job, and come work for me. Travel the world with me. Everything will be taken care of. Just please do it. And I really wanted to. I mean, this was someone who had worked with some of the biggest names in the music industry. I'm talking Cher, Bette Midler, Pink, all of these people. And he wanted me to go on the road and work for him. And I knew it was an amazing opportunity, but I just started my career at Dell. And what actually kept me at Dell instead of quitting was the fact that when I was a teenager, I had a family member tell me in not so many words that I would never amount to anything. And so instead of taking this amazing opportunity that I really, really wanted, I stayed at Dell. Now, okay, obviously, then I stayed there an additional 18 and a half years. But still, the reason I tell that story is because I did it for someone else. And now what I'm doing it for me. And it's all about redesigning my success, right? I took all of my learnings and now I'm doing it in what makes me happy and on my terms. So sometimes, when we look at doing things for others, not only do we not find fulfillment in it, we are prolonging what our true passion and our true calling is. And so the scary thing, or I don't know if scary is the right word, but the legacy limbo is really tricky because it's not only just about you. It's about your parents, maybe your spouses, brothers, sisters, right? It's every story you've heard about what success is, what success looks like, and it can be hard to make the decision to do something for yourself. And it's also interesting because, when you're one age, what you think you want to do, what you think that you have strived so hard for is one thing. But then as you get older and you change as a person and learn and grow, your passions may also change. So, again, the legacy limbo, it can be really scary, but it can also be really rewarding if you're willing to break free. Now that we've talked about the different types of stuck, let's talk about how do we really look at moving the needle? What do we need to do in order to get you unstuck? In order to get you unstuck, the first thing that we need to do is give you permission, right? And you don't really need my permission to do it. But seriously, sometimes they need that little extra hearing of it's okay. So I am giving you permission. I am telling you it is okay to question your path. If you don't think you're on the right path, then go forge a new one. I give you permission. Poof, my little magic wand. There you go. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as you're making mistakes, that means you're trying something new. As long as you are attempting something new, as long as you are putting yourself out there, as long as you are trying, you are learning, you're growing, you're getting better. I give you permission to do that. I give you permission to start before you're ready. Because if everyone waited until they were ready to actually start, we wouldn't have anything. This podcast would have never started because I can tell you, I honestly put it off for close to a year. But you know what it took for me to start it is I was a guest on another podcast and I was put on the spot. And she said to me, she's like, "When are you starting your podcast? When is it launching?" I was freaked out. But I knew in the moment, like, I had to start it because I committed to it. It's out there for the whole world to hear. And now, look at here we are today. I also give you permission to disappoint people who are not living your life. This is your life, and you get to decide how it goes. You get to write the first page, the second page, and every single page after that. So think about, like, what do you want your legacy to be? Because my guess is that where you are today, that's probably not where you want your legacy to end. So I give you permission to do all of these things to start writing your legacy. Second step is all about the micro movement method. And what that means is that your steps don't need to be big, bold, flashy. You don't need to go into your current boss's office, throw your resume letter down, put two fingers in the air and walk out. Now, we've seen all of the cringeworthy resignations on Facebook. Please do not do that. I'm not asking you to do that. What I'm asking you to do is something small. Have a conversation that you have been avoiding. Take one small step towards your goal. Spend 15 minutes exploring something new. I'm not even saying you have to commit to doing something new. Just spend 15 minutes exploring it. And then make one connection outside your current industry. Just one. It could be just cold on LinkedIn. You just go into your friends and you see your first and your second and your third line connections and just click on one of them. What's the worst that can happen? Step 3 is the legacy lens. And there's 3 parts to that. Number 1 is, what is the story that you want to tell? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind? Not only for yourself, but also as a blueprint for future generations. And this is something that I talk about a lot with my clients because your legacy depends on what you do every day. And I'm going to get to a story about that in a second. But the third thing then is, how does this chapter that you're in right now of being stuck, like, how long do you want this chapter to be? Because my guess is that you don't want it to be your last chapter. I was watching an interview of Oprah the other day, and it was really interesting because she told a story about a conversation that she had with Maya Angelou. And Maya Angelou is like she's phenomenal. She was a phenomenal woman, obviously. But in this interview, Oprah said that she told Maya Angelou that her legacy was going to be the school for girls in Africa. And Maya Angelou questioned Oprah, and she said, "How do you know that? You don't know what your legacy is going to be, because your legacy is not just one thing, it's everything." And I heard that and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. What we choose to do every single day is writing our legacy. That's something I think about now all the time. Okay, so now that we've talked about what does stuck look like, the different types of stuck, how to get unstuck, we're going to really put this to practical use for you. So if you've been multitasking, come back to me, grab a piece of paper and a pen, or open up your notes on your phone, because we're going to get real. And in order to do this, the first thing I want you to do is identify your stuck. Like, out of the three that we looked at, we have the golden grip, we have the procrastinator, and we have the legacy. What is the type of stuck that resonates with you the most? Think about when you first realized that you were stuck. And then I want you to write down, what is one thing that could make you feel a little less stuck? Then look at that momentum, right? That micro momentum that we talked about. I want you to think of one small change that you can make, like so small it might even seem ridiculous, but just one small change. And I want it to be something that you can implement in the next 24 hours and something that will move the needle. And again, I'm not talking like a pendulum swing. I'm talking about just a little bit. So, what is one thing, one change that you could look at making to help move the needle? Your homework for this week is to go ahead and implement that little micro movement that you wrote down. Again, something small, but let's start moving the needle and getting you unstuck. As we close today, I want you to remember that you have the decision to figure out how long the stuck chapter is. If this resonated with you, please share it, tag me, like it, and feel free. Go ahead and let me know what your little movement is in order to get unstuck. So until next time, stay fierce, stay bold, but most importantly, stay unapologetically you.